Camilla Rhodes stared at the dossier spread across her small dining table, two lines in bold drawing her attention. Name, Darius Barrett. Threat level, high. She flipped through the rest of the pages, scanning details of a string of ominous messages, suspicious break-ins, and mounting tension around a global tech empire. Exhaling, she sipped her black coffee, deciding that this assignment might push her skills to the brink, and she'd never been one to shy from a challenge. A quick glance around her minimal apartment reminded her of why she left the military for private security. Serving overseas had shaped her into a disciplined soldier, but she'd come home determined to protect those who needed specialized help. Darius Barrett, the dossier said, was a self-made software mogul at 34, recognized for a game-changing cybersecurity platform. A handful of malicious hacking groups hated him for plugging vulnerabilities, and business rivals saw him as a threat to their share of the market. Allegedly, some had decided intimidation or violence would be the next step. She found a tidbit about him. Charismatic, reclusive, ironically enough, because he never gave interviews beyond discussing corporate expansions. Camila's boss had personally requested her for the gig, citing her no-nonsense approach and ex-military record. The pay was excellent, enough to clear her mother's lingering medical debts. Even more, the job appealed to her sense of duty. People called her formidable, which she found satisfying. She only hoped Barrett wasn't the typical spoiled client who sneered at the idea of a bodyguard. She stuffed the documents into a folder, grabbed her keys, and locked up. A day from now, she would meet him at his estate. The tension in her gut whispered that this was no average babysitting detail. She resolved to keep her focus sharp. Nothing would endanger her client under her watch, even if he turned out to be a self-important tech billionaire. The next afternoon, she arrived at the Barrett estate, a sleek compound perched on a hill overlooking the city's skyline. The gates parted, revealing manicured lawns and towering glass facades. An assistant wearing business casual greeted her with a polite bow, leading her through airy corridors to a private study. Camila admired the minimalist elegance, open spaces, subtle African artwork on the walls, reflecting the founder's pride in heritage. She spotted glimpses of advanced security cameras discreetly embedded in corners. Someone took protection seriously. Good, she thought. That might save time. At last, they entered a high-ceilinged office with floor-to-ceiling windows. Soft sunlight poured in, illuminating a wide, modern desk. There stood Darius Barrett in the flesh. Taller than she expected, hair cropped close, a neat goatee accenting deep brown skin. He wore a tailored suit jacket over a casual t-shirt, a blend of businesslike and relaxed. Something about his calm posture hinted at confidence. And yet, she sensed an underlying tension in the slight pinch of his brow. He dismissed the assistant with a wordless nod. Then his dark eyes flicked to Camila, measuring. She let him look, standing with her usual upright bearing, arms at her sides, not in a stiff salute, but projecting authority. "So," he began, voice a smooth baritone, "you're Camila Rhodes, the ex-Army Ranger my security chief recommended." He paused, glancing at her toned build, the way she carried herself. She read no condescension, only curiosity. "I appreciate you coming. My team says you have the best track record of any close protection specialist in the region." She inclined her head. "I do my job well, Mr. Barrett. I hear you've had direct threats, attempted data breaches, suspicious packages delivered, enough that your staff is on alert." His jaw tightened. "I prefer to keep a low profile, but apparently, someone out there wants to rattle me. My staff insists on full-time close protection. I never liked the idea, but if it keeps my people safe, I'll cooperate." Camila suppressed a smirk. Already, she sensed he was the type who disliked being told what to do. "Let's clarify expectations. I'll be in charge of your personal safety, meaning I decide schedules, protocols, carry out risk assessments. You'll see me from dawn to dusk, and if needed, I'll stay on site." She lifted her chin. "I run a tight operation. If you can't handle that, let's part ways now." A flicker of surprise, then amusement passed over his face. "Straight to the point, Miss Rhodes." He folded his arms. "All right, I concede. I'll respect your methods, as long as they don't cripple my daily tasks. I can't shut down my entire life because of threats." She nodded, satisfied. "Fair enough. We'll find a balance, but your safety is paramount." "Understood." he said quietly, a mild gravity entering his gaze. Just do me one favor, if possible. If you see me pushing too hard, remind me to step back. My stress levels have been high and, yeah. He didn't finish, but she got the sense he recognized his own vulnerability. That was more self-awareness than she expected from a wealthy mogul. She softened a fraction. I'll see what I can do, she said. Now, walk me through your typical day. I want to see your schedule, your travel routes, any upcoming events where you'll be exposed. He motioned for her to follow him to a digital board on one wall. Right, let's get you set up. There's a major product launch soon, so you'll want to see that venue's security layout. As he laid out his routine, Camila asked pointed questions. She noticed how well he answered. No flippant half remarks. Maybe he truly valued her input. Maybe this assignment wouldn't be such a chore after all. For the first week, Camila shadowed Darius around the clock, through board meetings, design labs, and even the gym. She stayed discreet, letting his employees focus on tasks. Her presence turned heads, of course, a lean, no-nonsense black woman trailing the boss. People whispered about her background, ex-military, rumored to be unstoppable. She didn't mind the chatter. If it kept them from messing with security protocols, all the better. Darius's initial acceptance turned edgy whenever she insisted he skip certain events for safety. He bristled at canceled dinners, complaining about reneging on personal commitments. She stood firm. Until we figure out who's behind the threats, high-exposure events are too risky. We can relocate smaller gatherings to your estate or a well-secured venue. One afternoon, he practically snapped. I built my success by connecting with people face-to-face. I can't hide in my ivory tower. She held his frustrated gaze. I respect that. But would you rather have me fight off an intruder in some public restaurant with innocent bystanders at risk? Until we assess the real danger, caution is mandatory. He exhaled, glaring at the floor. Fine, he muttered. But I hate this feeling of being caged. She recognized the strain. Underneath his exasperation was a man used to controlling his environment. She was forcibly rewriting that environment for safety's sake. Still, it was the only way. That evening, after the tension-laden day, she found him in the lounge, swirling a glass of whiskey. She approached quietly, posture calm. I get it's not easy for you, she said, but I'm not here to suffocate your life. I'm here to ensure you get to keep living it. He shot her a tired smile. I know, I'm sorry for lashing out. Then, to her surprise, he added, You want a drink? She shook her head. Bodyguards rarely indulged on the job. But she sank into a nearby armchair, letting them talk. Their conversation drifted from the day's security measures to lighter topics. How she joined the army, the impetus behind his software empire. She discovered he cared deeply about bridging cybersecurity gaps in developing communities. He discovered her fascination with antique weaponry from her world travels. The hush of the mansion felt less oppressive, replaced by a growing sense of mutual respect. She excused herself after an hour, reminding them both they had an early day. But as she headed to her designated guest suite, she realized she felt a warmth in her chest, a flicker of something more than professional courtesy. She tamped it down. Do not get personally invested, she warned herself. A cardinal rule for any protector was never to let feelings compromise judgment. On the 10th morning of Camila's assignment, she rose early, heading to the estate's security hub. She scanned the logs and live camera feeds, ensuring no suspicious activity overnight. Everything looked normal. Exiting the control room, she nearly bumped into Darius in the corridor, wearing sweats for a morning run in the estate's yard. Morning, he said, quirking a brow. Want to join me on the track? I do about 3 miles before breakfast, she considered. Usually, she'd follow at a distance, but maybe running together would let her keep watch more effectively. And, if she was honest, her legs itched for real exercise. Sure, she replied curtly, ignoring the small thrill in her chest. He brightened. Great. Outside, the crisp air energized them. The estate's private running path wound around a small, artificial pond, flanked by meticulously trimmed hedges. She set a steady pace, finding it matched his well. For a while, they ran in companionable silence, footfalls syncing. She found the rhythmic motion soothing, letting her mind rest from scanning threats every second. Suddenly, a metallic glint caught her eye near the perimeter fence. She slowed, eyes narrowing. Stop, she commanded quietly. Darius pulled up short, chest heaving. "What is it?" She placed a finger to her lips, gesturing him behind her. Carefully, she approached the fence. A small device was lodged near the corner post, half buried in the grass. She crouched, scanning. It appeared to be a discreet camera or sensor. She grimaced, heart pounding. "Stay back," she whispered, pulling out her phone to take photos. The device didn't look explosive, more like a covert camera, possibly a sign that someone had decided to surveil the property. She radioed the estate's security. They arrived swiftly, removing the device for analysis. Darius stood by, shoulders tense. "You think they've been watching me from outside the fence?" Camila exhaled, adrenaline pumping. "Likely. This is more than petty threats now." She turned, meeting his worried gaze. "We need to amp up security. My guess is whoever placed that camera will escalate if they sense you're well protected. We have to be ready." His jaw hardened. "I'm not cowering inside, but fine, we do what we must." He gave her a pointed look. "I trust your judgment." Those words of confidence stirred something in her, reaffirming that this was no simple job. She mentally prepped for the next step, implementing advanced measures, doubling the guard. Danger loomed, but so did her commitment to keep him safe, whatever the cost. That afternoon, Camila arranged for a secure meeting with Darius's top executives in a downtown skyscraper he owned. She insisted on scoping every entrance, placing armed guards at vantage points. The execs thought her measures paranoid, but no one dared contradict Darius's bodyguard. He quietly backed her every request, a silent show of trust that she appreciated more than she cared to admit. The meeting unfolded on the top floor. Camila stationed discreet watchers at the corners while she herself stood near Darius. The discussion concerned a major software update. Tension rippled in the room. Something about this day felt uneasy. She couldn't pinpoint why. She scanned the windows and door constantly, ignoring the polite offers to sit. Suddenly, the power flickered. Lights dimmed. The overhead projector died mid-presentation. A hush fell, broken by the executive's murmurs. Camila's instincts kicked into overdrive. Her earpiece crackled. Someone in security reported a forced entry in the sublevel garage. She stiffened, turning to Darius. "We have an intrusion. We're locking this floor down." She told him quietly, already gripping her concealed handgun. "Stay behind me." His eyes flashed with concern. "I won't cause trouble, I promise." A wave of relief flickered that she didn't have to argue. She barked instructions into her comm, ordering the building's emergency lockdown protocols. The executives were ushered into an interior conference room. Camila insisted on Darius remaining behind a protective barrier, but he resisted. "I need to see what's going on. My people are in danger. I can't just hide." Her eyes narrowed. "Your presence only complicates the threat. Let me and the security team handle it." He clenched his jaw, torn, but eventually nodded. She stationed him with 2 armed guards, locking the door. Then, with a small team, she raced to the elevator bank. Descending to the sublevel garage took agonizing seconds. She double-checked her pistol, heart pounding with controlled focus. When the doors slid open, the garage lights flickered under emergency power. She advanced quietly, gun raised. The smell of burned plastic wafted from a scorched security console. 2 masked intruders crouched near a server box integrated into the building's architecture, likely trying to sabotage or steal data. They spotted Camila's team and opened fire. Bullets sparked off concrete pillars. Camila dropped to a crouch, returning shots with practiced precision. Her team fanned out, the exchange echoing across the parking lanes. Tension burned in her veins. She was used to combat from her military days, but the knowledge that these men threatened Darius's life ignited a fierce protectiveness. One intruder tried to flank them. Camila rolled behind a pillar, took aim, and fired, neutralizing him with a well-placed shot to the shoulder. He collapsed, weapon clattering. The second intruder fired a hail of rounds, pinning them behind parked cars. A security guard advanced from the side, but the intruder forced him back. Camila realized time was short. The intruder might attempt an escape or set off a bomb. She signaled a quick flank maneuver. The guard near her nodded, circling behind a row of SUVs. Camila drew a breath, then darted across an open gap, drawing the intruder's fire. She gritted her teeth, ignoring the ping of bullets near her feet. Her ruse worked. The intruder was distracted enough that her guard crept up and tackled him from behind, disarming him with a grunt. A final shot whizzed past Camila's ear, making her flinch. Then silence. Breathing heavily, she surveyed the downed intruders. "Secure them. Radio the police," she ordered, relief pulsing. She glared at the men's masks, suspecting they were hired guns from whoever threatened Darius. Grim satisfaction filled her as they moaned in defeat. No one would harm her client on her watch. Moments later, the local authorities arrived to take the intruders into custody. She raced upstairs to check on Darius. She found him emerging from the locked conference room, face etched with worry. The sight of him, unharmed, made her exhale in relief. He strode to her, eyes flicking over her for any injuries. "Are you okay?" he demanded, voice taut with concern. "Shots were fired. We heard it through the walls." She nodded, adrenaline fading. "I'm fine. They're neutralized. Seems they were after data or sabotage." She paused, feeling his tension. "You're okay?" He nodded. Then, in a surge of raw emotion, he reached out, pulling her into a fierce hug. She stiffened momentarily. Bodyguards rarely got personal, yet his warmth, his trembling relief, eroded her protest. Her arms rose to encircle him, letting the moment soothe their battered nerves. "Thank you," he murmured by her ear. "You saved me, again." The quiet sincerity in his tone kindled a spark in her chest that no professionalism could extinguish. In the days following the ambush, Darius ramped up his personal security staff under Camila's direction. The compound was locked down tighter than ever. She spent long hours dissecting every vulnerability, analyzing what weaknesses allowed those attackers to breach the building. Meanwhile, the police pressed the intruders for information. Suspicions pointed to a rival group wanting to steal or sabotage Darius's upcoming software launch. Despite the tension, a new closeness bloomed between them. Every so often, after reviewing security footage, they'd linger in discussion, drifting to personal topics. He asked about her ex-military experiences, her tours abroad, how she managed her mother's small home in the suburbs. She in turn gleaned that his father died young, leaving Darius to rise as the family caretaker. They shared their burdens. At times, Camila forgot she was on the clock, lulled by the sincerity in his eyes. Late one evening, Camila discovered him in the estate's library, gazing blankly at design sketches pinned on a board. She stepped in quietly. He glanced over, a shadow in his expression. He exhaled. "I keep thinking about how you jumped into that firefight without flinching. Meanwhile, I was locked in a conference room," she frowned. "That's my job, Mr. Barrett, and you had no business being in a gunfight." He shook his head, tension etched in his features. "It just feels wrong that you put yourself on the line for me. I hate people risking their lives on my behalf." Her heart squeezed. She recognized guilt creeping up on him. "You pay me to do it, right? And I do it because I believe in it. Don't regret that. This is my mission. I was trained for it." He pressed his lips together. "It's more than just a paycheck. I can see you genuinely care. I don't want to see you hurt." The earnest concern flickered in his dark eyes, and something in Camila softened. She set a gentle hand on his shoulder, ignoring the flutter in her chest. "I know how to protect myself. Don't worry." He studied her face, voice turning quiet. "You're the bravest person I've met, Camila. And I realize there's something else at play here, beyond employer and bodyguard." A hush fell, their gazes locked. She felt an undeniable pull, panic warring with a wave of longing. She was crossing lines, forging feelings for a client. But each day it grew harder to deny. Eventually, she cleared her throat, stepping back. "Darius, we need to keep boundaries. If I get emotionally entangled, my judgment could slip. That's the last thing you or I need." He swallowed, sadness flickering. "I respect that," he said softly, hands curling at his sides. "But know that it's not easy for me to bottle up what I'm feeling." She bit her lip, forcing composure. "Then let's do our best. The threat isn't gone yet, so let's stay focused on your safety." He nodded, but disappointment flickered in his posture. She walked away, heart pounding, uncertain who she was trying to protect more, him or herself. Weeks passed, each day forging an awkward balance between professional distance and unspoken affection. The software launch drew nearer. The synergy between them grew simultaneously. While they perfected security protocols, late-night strategy sessions turned personal. tension thickening whenever their arms brushed or eyes met. But Camila stuck to her vow of stoicism, determined not to let desire cloud her mission. Then, just a week before the official product launch, a major conference demanded Darius's presence. Despite Camila's reservations, he insisted on giving a keynote at a major tech summit in another state. The event promised a huge stage, thousands of attendees, and countless media, a prime target for adversaries. She meticulously planned an escort team, triple-checking the venue's blueprint, ensuring controlled entry points, exit strategies, concealed vantage points for potential threats. They arrived on site, a bustling convention center. Camila positioned extra guards at every door, ensuring backstage corridors were locked down. She personally stood near the stage wings while Darius prepared to deliver his keynote. He wore a sharp suit, exuding calm confidence, except for that fleeting glance her way, acknowledging the risks. She gave him a reassuring nod, ignoring the rush of warmth that simple look ignited. The keynote began smoothly, with Darius discussing the future of cybersecurity. The crowd hung on his every word. Camila watched from the wings, scanning the rows of seats, the catwalk overhead. Everything seemed normal, until she spotted a flicker of movement near the catwalk. She strained her gaze and glimpsed a silhouette shifting behind a spotlight. No one was supposed to be up there. Her comm crackled as a guard noticed a suspicious figure heading for the backstage corridor. Camila's stomach dropped. She signaled 2 guards to intercept. She advanced along a back stairwell, gun drawn. Her earpiece reported scuffles near the catwalk. She realized an imminent attempt might be upon them. Suddenly, shots rang out above. Panic rippled through the crowd as the microphone picked up the noise. Darius froze mid-speech, scanning for her. Camila sprinted up a narrow flight of steps. She found one guard disarmed, pinned by a masked attacker brandishing a pistol. Another attacker tried to slip past, likely to get a vantage on the stage. Before she could engage, she heard a shout from below. She whipped around to see Darius, unbelievably, climbing the steps behind her. Her heart seized. "Darius, get back. This is dangerous." He pressed on, eyes aflame with worry for her. "I won't hide while you face them alone." She cursed under her breath, firing a precise shot to disarm the pinned guard's attacker. That man yelped, dropping his weapon. But the second attacker spun, taking aim at Camila. She ducked behind a metal support, pinned by rapid fire. The air crackled with muzzle flashes. She realized she was exposed in a precarious angle. Then, in an act that defied reason, Darius lunged forward, trying to distract the shooter from behind. "Hey!" he roared, tackling the attacker's arm with surprising strength. The gun jerked skyward, bullets ricocheting off steel beams. Camila seized the opening, rolling forward to knock the weapon away. But the intruder twisted, driving an elbow into Darius's side, causing him to stumble. Time slowed. Camila saw the attacker pivot, raising a blade from his belt. Fury and horror merged. She launched herself between them, but the intruder swiped dangerously. Darius, seeing her in harm's path, wrenched his body to shield her. A flash of steel, a cry of pain. Darius took the blow meant for Camila, the blade slicing across his shoulder. Roaring with anger, Camila slammed the attacker with a blow from her pistol's butt, disarming him. Guards rushed in, subduing the man. Camila's breaths came ragged, and her gaze darted to Darius. He sagged against a catwalk rail, clutching his bloody shoulder, face pale. She rushed to him, heart pounding. "Darius!" She pressed a trembling hand to the wound. "Stay with me. You idiot! Why'd you jump in? I told you to stay back." He gave a weak chuckle, wincing. "Saw him about to stab you. Couldn't let that happen." Tears stung her eyes. "You put yourself in danger for me." She pressed her palm, trying to stop the bleeding. "Damn it, I'm supposed to protect you, not the other way around." He grimaced through the pain, but his eyes shone with fierce devotion. "Your life matters more to me." Her chest constricted, tears slipping down as paramedics stormed the catwalk. She let them whisk him onto a stretcher. Despite her training, she felt a raw panic that overshadowed all reason. He was badly hurt. "He's losing blood," she muttered, voice trembling. "Hurry." As they rolled him away, his free hand found hers. "I'll be okay," he rasped, forcing a grin. "Don't worry." She swallowed, nodding mutely, unable to speak. The reality crashed down. He'd risked his life for hers. He must truly, deeply care. The shock left her shaky, overshadowing the usual stoicism. She resolved, with every fiber of her being, to see him safe. Hours later, at a private hospital ward, Camila sat by Darius's bedside. Surgeons had repaired the shoulder laceration. Thankfully, no vital nerves severed. The security guard who'd been pinned also sustained injuries but was stable. The attackers were in custody, their tie to a rival outfit all but confirmed. Darius dozed from anesthesia, a bandage swathing his shoulder. Camila found herself studying his face, guilt and awe swirling in her chest. She was the bodyguard. She should have prevented this, yet he'd chosen to protect her. She recalled his words, "Your life matters more to me." A gentle knock interrupted. The door opened to reveal a nurse who recognized Camila from her own nurse days. They exchanged quick pleasantries about his condition. He'd make a full recovery, though rest was essential. Camila thanked her, then turned back to Darius, who stirred at the sound of their voices. His eyelids fluttered open. She stood, leaning in. "Hey," she whispered, heart pounding with relief. "How are you feeling?" He tried a wry smile. "Sore, tired, but alive. Did we get them?" She nodded, eyes warm with admiration. "Yes, all in custody." He let out a breath. "Good." Then his gaze locked on hers, tension brewing. "Camila, I'm so sorry. I messed up your plan. I put myself in harm's way. Are you angry?" She swallowed, tears threatening. "I was furious you endangered yourself, but you saved me." Her voice shook with uncharacteristic emotion. "I can't blame you for caring about my life. Just never scare me like that again." He managed a faint chuckle, then grimaced from pain. "I'll try, but I can't promise if it comes down to you or me." He let the words hang, making her heart twist. She brushed fingertips over the back of his hand. "We'll figure it out." Silence fell, thick with unspoken feelings. Footsteps approached, some corporate staff or well-wishers. She murmured that she'd check in later, letting them handle business updates. But Darius caught her wrist gently. "Stay," he said quietly. "Please." She relented, ignoring the onlookers' curious glances. The staff quickly delivered a brief security update. All threats neutralized, the software launch rescheduled, news coverage painting Darius as heroic for trying to help. He waved them off, glancing at Camila with warmth. "We'll talk later. Give me a day to recover. Right now, I want to rest." When they left, Camila settled in a chair by his bed. He studied her in the hush. "You look exhausted. Did you get any rest?" She shook her head. "Didn't want to leave until I knew you were stable." Then, after a breath, she added, "You matter to me too, you know. I never planned on letting my guard down, but seeing you do something that reckless for my sake." He gently squeezed her hand. "I'm sorry for any pain I caused, but I won't apologize for caring about you." Her cheeks warmed, a tear escaping. "You nearly died, you fool." He gave a lopsided grin. "Guess that means I owe you a date once I'm out of here, if you'll accept." She laughed through tears, nodding. "Yes, you stubborn man. I'd accept." Gently she leaned in, pressing her forehead to his. "Just no more diving in front of blades." He parted his lips to speak, but a nurse's arrival cut them short. Over the next day, visitors trickled in, offering support. Camila hovered protectively, ensuring no suspicious individuals got close. The hush of the hospital corridor contrasted the swirl of daily business demands. Darius refused to push her away, leaning on her help for meals, even letting her fix the pillow to ease his aches. On the third day, the doctor cleared him to return home with limited activity. Camila arranged secure transport. Once at the estate, she directed staff to handle day-to-day tasks while he recuperated in a comfortable suite. The threat having been contained, she could breathe easier, though she insisted on a security presence at all hours, just in case. Late that evening, she helped him settle on the couch in a lounge area overlooking the city lights. He wore a sling around his injured shoulder. She tried to keep things professional, but her heart soared whenever he glanced at her with gratitude. The intangible barrier between them had shattered. No more illusions. She sank onto the couch beside him, gently adjusting the blanket around his waist. He mustered a rueful laugh. "Look at me, the big tech magnate, stuck on a couch. I should be scheduling board meetings, but all I want is to talk to you." She arched a brow. "Your staff can handle the company for a bit. Focus on healing." His gaze roamed her face, a contemplative hush settling. Then he swallowed, as if deciding something huge. Camila, I know we've avoided labeling what's grown between us, but I almost lost the chance to say it, so let me say it now. Her breath caught, heart pounding. He fumbled with his good hand, reaching into a pocket. I plan to do this more elegantly, without bandages or sedation, but life's short. He pulled out a small box, flipping it open to reveal a modest yet exquisitely designed ring. Her eyes widened, throat clenching. He cleared his throat, voice trembling with earnest emotion. Camila Rhodes, I love you. Not as an employer, not because you're the bravest person I've met, but because you are you. Fierce, principled, a woman who saved my life in more ways than one. Will you marry me? Everything in her stilled. She recalled the vow never to get personally entangled. She recalled how he risked his life for her. She recalled the heat of each tender conversation. Tears blurred her vision. The fear of mixing personal feelings with her profession warred against the knowledge that love had already conquered that boundary, lethal and unstoppable. She exhaled, a tremulous smile forming. Yes, she whispered, voice thick with emotion. Yes, Darius, I'll marry you. Then she laughed shakily, though I might remain your bodyguard no matter what. He laughed in relief, eyes alight with joy. I'd be honored, Captain. Gently, he removed the ring from its box, sliding it onto her finger. She let out a teary laugh as it glinted in the lamplight, symbolizing a union forged in mutual respect, passion, and the willingness to risk everything for each other's lives. She leaned in, cupping his uninjured cheek, pressing her lips to his in a tender, lingering kiss. His sling-laden arm circled her waist as best he could, making her giggle at the awkward angle. He drew back, murmuring, You'll have to wait for me to heal for the full proposal extravaganza. She brushed away tears. No extravaganza needed. This is perfect. And so, as the city glowed beneath them, the once guarded ex-soldier and the once lonely tech mogul sealed their heart's promise. The threats had tested them with bullets and fear, but love, that intangible shield, had emerged triumphant. For once, she felt no conflict between her mission and her heart. Protecting him was no longer just a job. It was a vow bound by devotion, the vow of a future they'd cherish side by side.